Sure.
The way to get started is to quit talking and start doing. Good evening to one and all present here. I, Anushka Bajpayee, welcome you all for today's session. I also welcome the audience for being with us. I welcome all the IEEE members present here. I promise this will be a great learning session. IEEE PSIT Sensor Council, in association with Aryabhatt Club, is organizing this workshop on Git and Github. Motivation behind this session is to spread awareness among students about Git and GitHub, which is essential, and this is also very beneficial to launch future projects. I now give a warm welcome to our guest speaker, Ms. Riya Mathew, currently a Google developer, Student Club's lead, a Python developer, ML enthusiast, and a community enthusiast. So now, I request ma'am to continue with the further event.
All right. Thank you, Anushka. Thank you so much for the opportunity. So, you guys can you're all are comfortable with English, right? Can I just proceed on with that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So once again, thank you so much for inviting me over, and I'll be taking you all through a quick, a walk through Git and GitHub. So first of all, I'd like to ask a question to you all. So you guys have all shown up interest to come and attend this session. What actually made you guys interested in this session? So can I have a quick reply, please? Ashutosh, Ishita. Okay, Git and its repositories made you got interested. Okay, Ishita, good. So, how is the distribution over here? Are all of you first years?
Yes, ma'am. Mainly they are from first year, and like they don't know much about Git and GitHub right now.
All right. So it is actually a curiosity to know more also that brought you guys here. Great. Okay. So I'll just start sharing my screen. Do let me know if it is visible, when it gets visible. Okay. Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay. So are you guys ready for the session to start? We'll just start with a quick confirmation from you guys.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So first of all, let me just have a quick walkthrough about myself. So once again, introducing myself, I am Riya P Mathew, and I'm currently a Google Developer Student Club's lead. So telling about myself, I am a tech enthusiast, as Anushka mentioned, and I'm absolutely passionate about communities, and I'm also an okayish singer. So continuing with that, we'll just get on to today's agenda in a quick bit. So today I'll be introducing you guys to the world of open source a bit, and then we'll be focusing on a bit about Git and GitHub. What are these two used for? What are the major differences between these two terms? And then we'll be focusing on a few terminologies related to this. And then let's get our hands dirty with some quick coding and some deep dive exploration on the same. So the first thing that you've got to understand, how many of you have heard about this word called open source? Anyone? No, it's okay if you have not heard. Okay, Ashwin has heard about it. Anyone else? If you have not heard, you can just answer no in the chat. That's okay. Okay, so Ishita, okay, so it's okay. So open source generally means, as the word suggests, it is like an open sourcing. You are actually opening the doors of something particular to the public. So that is indeed what open source generally stands for. So Another quick question to you guys. Are you guys interested to experiment with things? Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
you're all quite, very passionate experimenters, as I've heard from Anushka. So if you are willing to experiment with things, and you might also be interested to do projects. Now I've just heard from Akash on how he is passionate about learning C, Python, and how C and Python is his favorite programming language. So you guys might be interested in doing projects also. So whenever you're going or indulging yourself into a tech stack, or whenever you are trying to go more deep into something, that is of a technical domain, Git and Github is actually this bread and butter sort of toolkits that you have to know about. So coming back to open source, what actually is what open source is. There are a lot of open source softwares that you usually use, but you might not be knowing that it is related to open source. How many of you have Linux operating system with you? Anyone who uses Linux operating system or Ubuntu or some?
I use Linux using VMware.
Okay, Utkarsh. So did you know that Linux is an open source software? Okay, so open source is nothing but the open source softwares would be, there are computer softwares, but whoever who has, made this software, or whoever who has released this software, they would usually release it under a license. And that software, the entire code and whatever the developing technology that was indulgent into it, that would actually be really exposed to the public domain. That means, the people who are using it will actually have the freedom to, go through the entire code, or even open it, use it really freely. That they have immense access to everything that is involved within the software. So the operator or the proprietor who has actually built the software will release it on a public license, and that would actually give the user of the software mainly 3 rights. The first one, he would obviously have the right to use it. The second one, he'll obviously have the right to study about the software, and he can actually add in his own contributions to the software. And then he'll also get the right to change things about the software, and also to distribute the software within his own scale also. So now, do you understand what open source is? You just need to understand it like this: वो free में होते हैं. Not just free, it will actually give the user of this software to actually freely use it and even change elements regarding that software. Now, do you understand what open source is? Any doubts?
Yes, ma'am. No doubts.
Okay. So next, I would like you guys to guess some of the open source softwares. So these are a few open source softwares that are readily available right now. So can you guys guess what are all these? What is this?
It's Linux.
Linux, good. Any guesses? Okay, you might be guessing this one.
Android.
Android.
Very good. Android. Now this is something that's called open source, and now this is Ubuntu, which is another operating system which has readily distributed along with Linux. And then you have Red Hat. It might be a familiar name for you guys, even though you might not be using it, but it is actually a Linux distribution holder. So that's some of the open source softwares that you really use. How many of you have Android phones? Those who use Android phones, Android in their phones. Come on guys, a quick show of hands please. Oh, all of you. So I'm guessing there are no iOS users over here. Okay, do you guys know that Android was also open source? So now you guys know that Android is also an open source software. All right. So that's some about the open source softwares that you know. Now you actually have to know the difference between what is open source softwares and what is freeware softwares. So freeware is actually, in the case of open source, I have told you that the exact source code of the software is actually available to the public. Whatever modules that software contains, whatever elements that software contains, the public can actually get to know the absolute grassroots level code of the software. And now if you consider freeware softwares, the source code will not be completely open to the public. The user of that software can use the particular software without any monetary intervention into that, but he cannot actually access the source codes of the software. So for example, I can state, do you guys know about Skype?
Yes.
Yeah, Skype is actually a freeware software, while Linux is actually an open source software. So that's the difference between freeware and open source. Freeware, you won't actually get the source code of it completely, while in the same case of open source software, you'll actually get the source code completely. Now I'll just show you an example. How do you actually get the source code of that software? So this is actually so Torvalds. Who's Torvalds? Anyone? Do you know? Who is Linus Torvalds? Any idea, guys? Okay, Linus Torvalds is actually the person who created the Linux, the Linux OS. So for him, he's the one who created Linux. So he's actually created that as, the entire source code of the operating system, which is Linux, is actually available on his GitHub repository. So from this, you can actually get the entire source code of the operating system, and you can even suggest bug if the user if he or she wants to add on some functionality into it, or if he or she found something that is inconvenient to use within that software, that can be represented as a bug. So this is how a user will actually anyone can actually contribute towards an open source software. So we'll learn about GitHub in detail in the coming with the coming sessions. For right now, you just have to understand how an open source software is managed. You can see how it is managed using this platform called GitHub. So next, we actually have to think about why do we actually need open source softwares. So you have learned about what open source softwares are. You have actually looked through some of the examples of open source softwares. Now you should know why should we actually indulge into open source. The first reason would be like when compared to other form of softwares, if you are so suppose you're actually using Microsoft Word. Okay, I'm stating an example. You're actually using Microsoft Word, and you would actually hypothetically consider this situation where you actually love this if you had a chat functionality or something within Microsoft Word, and so that you can actually chat with your friend. When you're working on some extensive documentation, you can actually chat with your friend, and you guys can discuss and then work on that documentation. So if you would like this functionality to be implemented with Microsoft Word, it would actually take up some time, you'll actually have to write to the authorized proprietor. Then they'll actually have to consider it. So if this is some sort of bug that you have, or some sort of feature that you want to be incorporated into that software that you're using on, and when you're using it, it will actually take up a lot of time in the case of freeware. But in the case of open source, if you actually want some functionality or some feature to be implemented onto that software, you can just go to the GitHub profile, go to the GitHub repository of the particular software and just issue a bug into it. And either you can actually issue the bug and you can actually implement that feature and put in a pull request. We'll go into detail about all those sorts of things later. What is a bug, what is a pull request, but this is how you can actually contribute to that. So it actually hence in enhancing, the fast bug reports. It will enhance the faster bug reports. Then it would actually provide more extensive security, and the quality of code will be actually improved. And then another thing that you'll have to understand is open source softwares will actually have a very vast community support. For example, see this, I have actually shown you, this is the GitHub repository of Linux, which is an open source software. Do you guys see the 17 hours marked over here? Can you see that? Do you have to? Guys, response please.
Yeah.
Do you guys see the 17 hours marked over here? So that actually means that it was 17 hours ago where the last contribution was made into this repository, which means this is a highly active GitHub repo or project, and people are actually contributing as I'm talking to you guys, or as you guys are listening, people are actually contributing to this project. So they might be interested to implement some sort of feature into it. They might be working on it, and they might have actually implemented that and pulled it into the issued it as a pull request or a request so that it be implemented onto this software. And then the proprietors of the particular software, Tallwalls, would actually find that implementation really good, and he might have actually committed that into the into the Linux software. So that's how the community support is really vast. And even if you need even if you have some sort of doubt that would come across while working with the software or working with the code of the software, help will actually be readily available. So that's a bit of the part where open source software actually has the edge over, the usual proprietary or freeware softwares. So do you guys right now have a general idea about open source software as of now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and another quick call, no need to call me ma'am, just Riya would be fine to all of you. So I'm guessing there are no doubts up to this point. All right, good. So now we are moving on to the major part of today's discussion, which would be the two major toolkits which are considered to be the bread and butter of any developer, so which is Git and GitHub. So the first thing is what do you have to understand? Why do you actually need to know about this? So I have actually told you about open source contributing. Why do we need open source? And in the next question that actually comes in, how do you actually contribute to open source? So that's where Git and GitHub actually comes into the picture. So my quick question, another quick question. How many of you have a GitHub account over here? A GitHub profile?
I have.
You have? So can you kindly share your GitHub profile in the chat, please, Utkarsh?
Sure, ma'am. I just need 2 minutes.
All right, sure. So anybody else? Okay, Akash also have. Please, okay. You guys do have a profile. That itself is a really good thing. You guys, every one of you should actually have a GitHub profile, which would actually, enable you to clean up neat. Which should actually enable you to, work more with GitHub, work more with your projects and everything. So, all right. So getting more into Git and GitHub. So first of all, you have to understand the difference between what Git and what GitHub is. So Git is actually, the differences between both of these is actually a sort of, a very much confusing part about, a general part about, the clarification between Git and GitHub. So I'll be just going through a quick overview about what the I'm sharing my screen again, guys. So just let me know if you can see it properly.
And I'll share my GitHub profile with you in the chat.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Utkarsh.
You're welcome, ma'am.
So is it visible again, guys? Can you just check out?
Yes, Riya.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
All right, thank you. So, okay. So next, you'll have to actually understand about Git and GitHub. So Git can actually be specified as a version control tool. So you guys have told me that a few of you are learning programming languages. So suppose if you want to, suppose you have written some amount of code, a very huge amount of code, and after writing a whole lot of code, you're actually finding that you have a bug amidst the code. Okay, you have messed up a code in the bit. You have actually written files and files of code. Like actually, you've written three or four files of code, and you have actually found a bug or an error somewhere in the midst. So what would it actually, and you will actually have to redo the entire version. Would you consider yourself in this situation? Would you actually like to redo the entire code just because to fix that small error?
No, ma'am, actually would want that we should, that part which is containing an error should come, or it should be easy for us to debug the program.
Yeah, you should actually be able to navigate to the part where you have actually, you should, it would be very nice if you could navigate to that part of code before you have actually did that error, right?
Yes,
so you
ma'am.
have, yeah, so that is how. So you wouldn't really like enough code over and over again. You would actually conducted the error or that particular version before which whatever code you're actually working on in your computer or in your system, you can actually maintain a remote copy or or an online copy. Let me just refer to the word an online or a remote version of that particular code, such that even if something happens to your system, like your system has completely crashed away, it completely got destroyed, but still if you want a copy of your code stored somewhere in a properly organized manner, that's where GitHub comes into the picture. Understood? So this is the difference between, see, Linux Torvalds will actually have a copy of this entire code into his system, and there might actually be a lot of people who would be working on this particular project, who would be having the versions of code into their systems also. And what this platform called GitHub is something that brings all of it together, all the versions of code into a single unit, and it actually forms this distribution unit that actually showcases the entire code. So this is the difference between Git and GitHub. You have to actually understand that Git is a software and GitHub is a platform. Got that clear?
Yes.
What about you, everyone?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Any doubts? Anyone?
No, ma'am, not yet.
All right. So I hope that part is clear to you guys about that part that differentiate Git and GitHub. So now, I'm just going to quickly, show a bit of things on how many of a lot of you have Git installed in your systems, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
yeah, okay. So all of your Windows users, any Mac or Linux users over here, can you just show your hand? Oh, one of you is a Linux user, right?
Actually, I was using it by VMware.
All right. Okay, fine. Okay. So if you don't have Git installed in your system, just quickly install Git to your systems. So you can actually go to this link which I'll be putting in chat. So you can directly install Git for Windows based on using this link, and then whatever your system is, if it is a 32-bit setup, you can go for the 32-bit Git for Windows setup, and if it's a 64-bit system, you can go for the other option. But make sure you have Git installed in your systems. And the second one that you'll have to think about is okay, I'm resharing my screen once again so that I could just give a quick look to you guys on my VS Code. All right, is the system visible? Is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So now what I would like you guys to do is that go to your command prompt, okay? The command prompt of your system, and then this is my command prompt. So what I'll actually like you to do is just type in this command called git --version. I repeat that. I'll just put in the command over here too. Version. What is the output, guys, that you are getting?
Ma'am, Git version 2.36.1. Windows.1.
All right. So you guys are getting, can it run in i3 processor? Yes, of course it can. You just need to, download the correct version of Git for Windows. You're using it on Windows, right, Anish?
Yes.
All right. You just need to install the particular Git version for that. If it is, I think 64-bit would be fine. Then you just need to run it on. So Git version. If this command runs without any errors or any other difficulties, then you can be assured that Git is actually installed into your systems. And then the next thing that you'll actually have to do is you need to do a bit of setup for Git. So this setup process will actually give the identity of yourself to your identity to the Git version control software present in your system. So this next is a set of commands that why do you actually need this? So if you're working on a particular project and if you want to mark in your contribution to that project, so suppose let me just give this example. 4 or 5 of you are working together on a particular project. Do you guys actually do group projects here? Any particular groups over here that has actually worked on a project or would love to work on a project? Guys? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you guys do love to work on a project. So suppose this is the case where you guys do have a 4 member group, and you guys are working together on a project, and you actually have a remote copy of your project into your system, you guys actually create a remote copy of your project in GitHub with a particular repository, and then each of you are going to contribute to that particular repository based on the code that you have on your systems. So configuring Git within your systems using your identity will actually give will actually enable to mark your contributions to that particular project, or it will also help in linking your GitHub repository, your remote copy of your remote GitHub repo or your GitHub profile to your local version control software, that is your Git version. So this is how, now I'm going to explain how do we actually do that, like how do you actually work with configure GitHub into your systems, like configure GitHub onto your systems. So we need a bit of setup for that. So for that, I would actually love you guys to have a GitHub account. So next step is to actually create a GitHub account. So for those of you who do not actually have a GitHub account, I suggest you guys to actually make it as soon as create it as soon as possible, as it will be a very good toolkit for you guys. So this is the GitHub URL. You can go on to this, and let me just open an incognito window because I already have GitHub signed in on my system. So you can go and sign up with your you can go and sign up with your email ID and continue, and you can actually have your own GitHub accounts. And once you already have a GitHub account, you will have a GitHub profile. So this is actually my profile, and you'll have your own GitHub usernames. You'll have your own GitHub profile. You can customize it as much as you want, and we'll go into that later. How do you do that? So this is my username. So I want to configure my local version of Git with my GitHub. So that's how am I going to do that? I have a quick few commands on how to do that. So what you have to do is you have to again open up your command prompt, open up your terminal or command prompt, and you actually have to put in this command. So git config -- global user.name, and then you put in your name or the username that you want to configure your Git. So I would generally, in my case, I would generally put in my GitHub username, which is Riya Mathew -11, and then when you run it, you'll actually have your username set on into the GitHub version control, and then the next one is you actually have to configure with your email. You configure your email ID properly too, so that is also set in motion. So that's how you'll have to actually paste in this command too, and put in your email ID alongside with it. So that's the basic setup configuration that you have to do. If you guys are doing, if anyone of you is doing this parallelly along with me, I'll just put in these commands in the chat box. Okay, got it, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
What about others? Abhay, Ayush?
Yes, ma'am.
Got it? Okay. So this is how you configure your Git. You configure your your local version of Git into your systems. And then, now if you actually have to ensure that this is actually done, there is another command which I'm going to do right now, which is git config. Screen is visible quite fine, right? Do I have to zoom in?
A little bit.
Okay, let me just see if I'm able to zoom it up. Okay, now is it fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if I have to ensure that this was done properly, that my configuration is actually properly done, so I'll just have to move on to a simple command, which is git config -- global, and then put in E. And when you run it, okay, sorry, there was a mistake in the command, sorry. I have to put a hyphen, sorry about that. So hyphen again another hyphen E. So see, this is my Git's first user configuration file, and that has my name set as Riya Mathew 11, and it does also have my email set as Riya P Mathew 2000, which is my email. So anyone, did you guys follow this? Is the configuration part okay on how you guys do it?
Yes, ma'am, got it.
Okay, so you guys got it. So now we are gonna actually move on to a bit of, how do you actually work, or how we are gonna tinker a bit with Git and GitHub. So for that, I am opening up my Visual Studio Code. This is my all-time favorite code editor. The reason why I'm using it is, like, you have a lot of code editors. You can use Atom, you can use Vim, then preferentially, I do prefer VS Code because it is lightweight and really it has also got these really cool extensions that I can work along with. So I have, I'll just start over again so that you guys can also align properly. So I'm taking up a new window for VS Code. So it's visible, right, guys? Is it okay?
Yes.
All of you
Yes,
can
ma'am.
see it, right? Okay. So I've actually opened up my VS Code editor, and then the next thing that I actually have to do is I have to create or open a file. So I'm gonna go with opening a folder. So I actually have created a folder which I've called it as Exploring Git. So you guys can create a new folder as much as you like. So if you guys are following along with me, I would really like you guys to create a new folder and then open it up with GitHub, open it up with VS Code. So this is how you open, open the folder with VS Code. So now what I'm going to do is, what are the steps that I've actually done till now? I've actually installed Git into my system. I've actually, configured Git. Now I'm gonna show you the basic workflow of how Git works. So for that, I'll actually have the first step that I'll actually have to do is to initialize Git into my working space. So right now, what is my working space? This particular folder, which I also call it as a directory, this particular folder is my working space. So whatever writing I'm going to do, whatever code I'm going to do, whatever work I'm going to do, it is going to be within this folder. So the first thing that I should do is I have to initialize Git with this particular folder, into this particular folder. So for that, I'm going to use the simple command which is called git init. Got the command, guys? What is the command? It's called git init. So when you do it, you'll actually find that Git has actually been reinitialized into this particular repository. So my repository was called Git Exploring Git, and you will actually have a suffix .git attached alongside it, so that you will have Git initialized properly into the system. So now the next thing that I would like you guys to understand is, there is this simple command called git status. So that would actually tell about what is the current status of your working directory with respect to Git. So we don't, on main branch, this is called the main branch. Now what is a branch? I'll get into it in detail later. So we don't have anything to commit, and my working tree is actually clean because I have not done any changes or I've not done any additions or any deletions onto this file, onto this folder. So now the first thing that I'm going to do right now is I'm going to create a new file. Okay. So I'm creating a new file and I'm going to name it as my commit.txt. So I've created a new file. Now you can actually see that I've made on an addition. So that actually goes green because that is a new update that I have made into my working folder. So now again, if I go, redo the same command, which is I'll just zoom it a little bit. If I redo the same command, which is like git status, you can see that there is an untracked file in my working directory, which is my commit.txt. So Git is actually this Git flow has actually been initialized to my system, and then I have actually added a new file into my working directory. But you can see that file has not actually been added to my Git workflow. So I have this particular Git workflow, and that has not been added to my file, has not been added to the Git workflow that I have in my system. So the status came as untracked. So now, what do you guys think? What should I do to add merge this untracked file to my work to my
Commit this file.
No, I actually have to add and commit this file. Who was that? Sorry, I didn't hear you. Who was that actually?
I'm Utkarsh.
Okay, Utkarsh. Did you actually work with Git before, Utkarsh?
Yes, I had learned Git till pushing and pulling of data.
All right, nice. Okay, so I actually have to add this particular file into my Git workflow. So how do I add it, Utkarsh, since you know that?
I'm using git commit.
If I
and then I just name this file.
So if I simply put git commit and then add this particular file, okay.
Yes, I'm in double quotes, I guess. My file, my commit.txt.
My commit.txt. An error came up. Why do you think this error came up? See, an error. I just put my git commit my commit.txt, and what is the error? Error path specific my commit.txt did not match any file known to Git. So now you understood. I have actually added this file into my working directory, but Git doesn't actually know if this file is there in my working directory or not. So for that, what should I do? I should actually add this file to my Git workflow and then commit it. So that is how that's what I'm gonna do right now. So I'm actually gonna add this file now. So there is another simple command which I call git add, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put this file name again. Now this file has been added. I've run the command and no particular output has been shown. Now I just have to check if this file my command has actually brought in any changes to the Git workflow or anything. Git workflow. So I'm gonna to show you guys if there was any changes to my Git workflow in this directory. I'm gonna run the git start this command again. So now you can see like a new file has been added on to the Git workflow. So first of all, my file was untracked. My file was untracked because that means Git did not know that there was this particular file onto my working directory. And now I've actually added this file on to the Git workflow. And now what do I do with Utkarsh?
The file is added, so now we can commit this file.
Now we can actually commit this file. Now we can actually commit.
I forgot that git add functions.
That's okay. That's okay. So you first have to actually add the file onto the Git workflow, and then you commit. So what happens when you actually commit? That's what I'm gonna just demonstrate that bit to you. So suppose this is the working area. This is your working area, which is the folder that you're just. Can you see this Giphy?
Yes, ma'am.
This is visible, right? Everyone, is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So this is actually the working directory or the folder that you're working on, and the staging area. The staging area is actually comparable to the the Git workflow that I have actually told you about. That is actually the staging area. Now, what the output should be you should actually be able to, convert the local copy of your code. See, I've taken the example before. See, तुम में से 4-5 लोग एक ही project में काम कर रहे हैं, and along with that, each of you are working on your own individual pieces, and you actually have to update it onto the the global code space, which you have it on GitHub. Or if you the GitHub repo that you've created, you have to continuously update onto it. So this is that simple workflow that explains the whole thing. This is suppose Utkarsh is working on the project in his own system, and he is working on this working tree, and then he actually have to add his changes onto the Git workflow, and that Git workflow is actually your staging area. And when you are committing your files onto the Git workflow, you're actually putting your files onto the staging area, so that it can be readily transferred into the global copy or the remote copy or the code version that you have on GitHub. Now, did you guys understand that part? Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Everyone? Anyone, any doubts? Because if this part is not clear, we cannot actually move forward. Akash got it clear. What about others? Ishita, Tanisha, is it clear? All right, good. Thank you, guys. Okay, so you have now what I've actually done is I've committed my file, so I've actually put in this file onto the staging area. Now what should I do with this? I should actually be able to, put it onto a global copy or a remote copy of my working directory. So for that, I'm going to do something right now. So I've actually created I'm going to create a new repository by the name Exploring Git. So what I've actually named this repository as Exploring Git, right, guys? So I actually need a remote copy of this folder onto my GitHub also. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new repository. So creating a new repository is pretty easy. All you have to do is just go to your GitHub profile, and then the plus symbol over here, just click on that and then go for new repository, and then you can actually give your repository name. And if you're working on a particular folder onto the local copy, make sure that you name it the same way. So I've given it as Exploring Git. I've actually given it as Exploring Git, and now it is showing Exploring Git already exists on this account because I've actually created a GitHub repo prior hand so that I could show you guys. So I can actually name my repository as the same name as my folder, and then I can either go with it as a private repository or a public repository. So public repository enables you guys also to see the repo and the files on the repository, and then I can even add a README file. Okay, so a README file is actually something that tells about your repo or about your project or your repo. It is basically a documentation file. So that's about a README file, and then you can actually go on with a license. So what is about licenses and all, I'll be covering a bit later. Now you can actually understand that whenever you're creating a free or an open source project, you should actually put in a license so that it stands out unique. So those are the major things that you actually have to think about while creating a repository. So since I've already created a repository, right now I can actually show you by creating a random repo. So I'm just naming it as direct, and I'm making it public. I'm not adding a README file right now because I'm just creating it random. So as I create this repo, I can find that a repo named direct is created, and then when you are starting a repo full on means at the initial stage, you'll actually find the, the help or the documentation or the commands that would actually help you to, commit your local files onto this particular repository. So right now I've been working on the exploring Git, the repo that is called exploring Git. So I'm just taking that repo from my GitHub profile. So this is the GitHub repo that I can definitely say that this is the remote copy of the folder that I've been working on. So for that, let me just quickly walk you through the elements that I can find in this GitHub repository. So this is visible, right, guys? Any issues in between?
No, Riya, it's visible.
It's visible, and up to this point, it's fine, right? Any doubt or any clarity that you guys need regarding setup, regarding configuration of Git, regarding how I created a new file, how I added it to the GitHub workflow, how I committed it to the GitHub workflow, and how that is a staging area. Are all these points clear?
Sure.
Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can I just have some more of you guys? I can find Ishita, Akash, Utkarsh, Abhay. Anyone else? Khushi, Pooja, is it okay? Are you guys comfortable with the pace of things? All right. Okay, fine. So this is the remote point of my GitHub repo. So I'm just quickly walking you guys through the different elements. So I'll have, see, this is an area called code, and this actually gives, if I go into this actually gives an HTTP URL of this particular repo. So what is the necessity of this repo, this link, this URL is that this is that key element that helps me to link my local repo to my remote repo, or that actually helps me link my local copy of my folder, which is exploring Git, to this, this GitHub repo, which is called exploring Git. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to add files from my local folder to this remote folder. You can actually do it manually by, this add file option. You can upload files directly from from my system, but other than that, you can actually use Git commands, Git, to do the same, which is a more efficient workflow, because it will help you to have a better command of your code or your workflow. So for that, I'm just taking up this Git URL and going back to my code. I've done till this point where I've actually added my my commit this file onto my GitHub workflow. Now I'm going to commit it. So once I commit it, oh, okay. So I shouldn't just commit it as such. I actually have to provide a commit message too. So I'm gonna actually do it again. Go for Git status. So there is this new file that I've added onto my Git workflow. Now I'm gonna commit it. So I'll just use the command, which is called, this is the command. I actually have to use the command called git commit, then a -m, and you always have to provide a proper commit message. That is the part that actually helps you to track the status or whatever point you are at. So use the commit message properly. And if you just go into git commit, if you just put the command git commit as I have done right now, what happens is that the editor will actually open up a place for you to put the commit message, and then you have to come back to your terminal. So in order to do that in a single step, you can actually commit and add your commit message in a single step. So that is how I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to do git commit, then do a -m, and put my commit message. So this is my first commit. So I'm going to just name it as first commit. So guys, there seemed to be an error. It says another Git process seemed to be running in this repository. Why do you think that error came up? Any idea? So this is basically because have been trying to run the same command in two different terminals within the same folder. So since that process was actually running, I cannot actually initialize that initialize the same thing into another one. So what I've done is that I've killed the first thing, and I'm going to do this again. So now I've committed this file. I've actually run the command git commit -m, and I've done first commit. Now what happened? The file changed. Up till this point, this was a green. This actually showed a green part. So now since I've actually committed it, this has been transferred from my working directory to the staging area. This staging area that I've been talking about. So up till this point, the file has been in my working directory, and once I've committed, I have actually transferred it into the staging area. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I'm going to transfer this into my into my remote directory, which is my GitHub repo. So are you guys ready to know how that's going to happen? I think Utkarsh already know it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So Utkarsh, what should be my command? So the first thing I'm going to do is I actually have to ensure that my branches are the same. So I'm working.
Ma'am, first of all, we need to check on which branch are we actually.
Yes, we actually have to check out which branch are we actually at. So branch, I've told you that I'll be explaining what a branch actually is. So just as of now, just visualize it this way. Branch is actually your current copy of the code that you're working at. The current module, this file that I am having it right now, the folder that I'm having it right now, this is actually one copy of the code. I can actually create numerous copies of the same code within my system via different branches. So that's how the concept of branches comes up. It is actually, creating numerous copies of your code within the same working folder. So now I have to actually check if I can only, add on files from the same branch of my local repository to the same branch of my global repository. So right now this is the main branch, and even I'm working on the main branch right now. So there won't be much of an issue. So the next thing that I'm going to do is the most important step, which is I'm going to link my local repo to my remote repo. The local repo is the working folder that I have opened up in VS Code, and the global repo is this GitHub repository that I have opened up, that I have created right now. So I'm going to link both of them. So for linking that, I have another set of commands, which is the first thing that I have to ensure that I have the repos, the main branch, the default branch at the global repo is actually the main branch. I have to ensure that I am working on the same branch within the local one also. So you guys have noticed that this portion here actually, this place here actually shows the branch which I am working at. So both of them are the same. And now I'm going to actually add an instance of my global repo to my local repo. So the command that I have to run is git remote add origin. So the origin is my global repo. So I'm going to add this particular command, git remote add origin. Now origin I have to give a reference to that origin. So how do I give the reference to that origin, which is via the URL that I have just copied up. So it says remote origin already exists because I've already initialized that particular origin into this repository. If you are not, if you have not initialized it, you have to do it again. But if it's already done, it would show this message that remote origin already exists. Now there is nothing more that I have to do. I just need to commit. I just need to commit whatever I have into my remote part. So for that I am using this particular command git push. So now you have to actually understand the differences between git push and the git pull command. So the git push command is actually used to transfer all the files that I have at my staging area. So the staging area, the git push command already actually puts up all the files that I have in my staging area into the Git repository. Then the git pull command, then if the git push command actually puts all the files into the Git repository, then what does the git pull command do? Guys, if the git, I've said that the git push command actually puts my files which are there in the staging area to my GitHub repository. So then what will the git pull command do? Just the opposite thing, which will be taking up the files from my GitHub repo, my online repo to exactly Ishita, very good. It would actually take up my files from the GitHub repo back to my staging area, so that any changes, so that both the local copy and the global copy have the same amount of changes. So I'm gonna, since there are really no amount of, since this is the GitHub repo that I have, it is actually clearly empty. So I'm gonna push this change to my global repo. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to use the push command, which is git push origin, and then you specify the branch name, which is main. So if it is properly done, it would show this particular message: enumerating objects, then writing. So total 3. So it has already been pushed. Let me just check if it is properly done. So I'm going to refresh this repo, and you can find that my file from my local space has actually been added to my global space. So how is this, guys? How do you guys think about this? Do you guys actually understand how this actually helps us to maintain a proper organized copy of the code even in at your local space and at your remote repo? So even if there is one particular, you have messed up your code in the local copy, that you have, you actually have it at this global space where you can actually retrieve them whenever you need. So whatever, if you think that you have actually written perfect code and you are satisfied with it, you should actually push that code into this particular repo so that it stays as such. And whatever, even if you mess up your local copy of the code, you won't be actually you don't actually have to be worried about, because your global copy will always be there for your help. So this is how you actually commit your file to your GitHub repo. Any doubts regarding this? Hello, guys. Any doubts regarding this? Did you guys get? Did you guys get the fact? Did you guys get the fact? How did I,
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sure. Thank you, guys. Okay, so that's the one particular important point that you have to understand. You should always be knowing how you transfer your files from your local space to the global space. Now, the concept, and the next one is a very interesting concept, which is about branches. So are you guys ready to go on with branches? It is a very interesting topic, and this whole concept of branches is what actually it is that key concept that actually help you in collaborating with your team while you're working on a particular project. So we are going to branches right now. So I've actually told you that this is my global copy of my repo, and this particular point over here is what enables, which helps you to track the different branches. So what are actually branches? So a particular branch is actually one particular copy, instance, or a copy of your entire code. And you can actually make as much as replications as you want into your current, from your current existing code format. And whatever, if suppose I have this much on the main branch, I have this one file, okay, which is called my commit.txt, and then I have to just replicate this copy, okay. I have to replicate this file again in a separate instance. So what I just need to do is I just need to create another branch. So I'm going to show you how you can create a branch over here too. While you can just write, if I want to create a branch over here, I can just write new branch and then put in, create branch, this option. It would actually create a new branch. So now I'm going to explain to you why do you actually need branches. So now we are going to work a bit with branches. So suppose this is, this is Utkarsh. Okay, Utkarsh, I'm taking your instance over here. It's okay, right?
No problem, ma'am.
All right. So this is Utkarsh. Now, who will I? And this is Abhay. Abhay is over here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is Utkarsh, and suppose this is Abhay. So Abhay and Utkarsh, they are working on a particular project. Okay. They are working on this particular project. So and they actually have, so to work efficiently, they have actually decided to create a GitHub repo and they are actually working on different local instances of that repo onto in their own local systems. All right. So Abhay is working on the same project. Utkarsh is working on the same project. They cannot actually work, do the code concurrently and push it into the same repo exactly at one point of time, because Abhay, sometimes there might come a chance where Abhay might be writing a piece of code and Utkarsh might be writing a piece of code, and if they come and clash together, the entire project may mess up. Okay, so to solve such a situation, which is why a branch comes in, different branches comes into situation. Okay, so now I'm gonna just help you guys visualize this thing. So this is the main branch of the project. Okay, this is the main branch, which is the default branch, which will be the branch that will be going to deploy, which means all the final changes that you guys do to your project will come under this main branch. Is this concept clear of the main branch?
Yes, ma'am.
All of you? Anyone who's got a doubt over here regarding main branch? Akash and Utkarsh said no doubts. What about the others? Ishita, Tanisha, Rishabh, Swastik. Okay, for you guys?
No, ma'am.
All right. So in case you do guys, you guys do have doubts, just feel free to interrupt and ask it right away. So this is the main branch where all the final changes of the code will be doing. So the most updated branch would be the main branch. Now Utkarsh needs to work on his own copy. So what is Utkarsh going to do? He is creating another branch, which I call it as Utkarsh. He's creating a branch of his own name, which I call it as Utkarsh. And again, Abhay is actually working on the same project. So Abhay needs his own version of the code. So Abhay is going to create another branch, which he'll be naming it as Abhay. So I have different instances over here right now. This is the main branch, which will actually be the point where all the final changes, or that is the main working branch of this project. Now Utkarsh has got its own copy of the code, or the all of the processes that are there in the main branch, while he created his own branch which is called Utkarsh branch, and then Abhay has also created another branch which is called Abhay branch. And then once Utkarsh has actually done with his part of the code, what does he actually have to do? He actually wants to add it on to the working part of the branch. So once Utkarsh is done with his own piece of code, he can actually merge it with the main branch, so that the part that Utkarsh did, that part would be moved on to the working branch. So Utkarsh can actually work on his branch, he can commit to his own branch, and then finally once he is satisfied with whatever he has done, and if he thinks that it finally works, he can commit it, he can merge the Utkarsh branch with the main branch. And the similar case, Abhay can also do the same thing, so that Utkarsh and Abhay, who are working parallelly on the same project, they'll actually have concurrent versions of the code or whatever work they are doing, and finally when they are satisfied with it, they can actually merge their own work with the main branch. So what is the added advantage over here? What do you guys think is the added advantage over here? It is that both Utkarsh and Abhay will not have to work on the same project subsequently, as in when they are not committing directly to the main branch, both of their versions of code don't actually bring in conflicts to the project. Also, they can actually test their code on their own branches and see if it is working, and then if they are satisfied with it and if it is completely working, then they can transfer it on to the main branch, so that fully efficient code, working code will actually be on the main branch. So if you guys might be noticing that I have actually told you the example of Linux Stonewalls, the Linux the system. So Linux will have this main branch which is called the master branch, and this is the branch that is concurrently in production. Like this is the one that is being deployed. Or even if you consider the example of, how many of you like Netflix over here? Netflix? Are you guys so absorbed in the session that you're not thinking of anything else? Okay, Utkarsh likes Netflix. So everybody else are those serious type of people who don't watch movies and everything? Okay, so suppose Netflix is also designed in the same way. They should actually work on the code. So in the case of this instance called Netflix, so Netflix will actually have a main branch which has been deployed, which means the actual website or the web application, the website of Netflix will be deployed with this main branch. All right. Now consider they are gonna add a new functionality to Netflix, which will actually, which will actually give the same experiences. You guys might be familiar with the Amazon Watch Party thing. Amazon Watch Party. How many of you do watch parties often? Do you guys do that? With Amazon Prime Video?
I think it's a feature where more than one people can watch the same show at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. So Netflix actually thinks that they need to implement the same feature onto, their platform, that they need to do a watch party sort of thing in Netflix. So what are they going to do? If they have to implement this feature, are they going to bring down the entire web platform down, and then they are going to, are they going to, write the code and directly update it to the web platform without testing?
No, ma'am.
They cannot do that. So, and if they do have to test, they cannot actually do it on the part that is actually running on. People are actually using the Netflix app. So if they have to bring in this feature, they actually have to test it on some other version or some other piece or some other, branch, so to test, to check if that actually works before they are, merging it into the master branch, which is the production branch. So they actually have to check it out. So to do that, what do they do? They'll actually create a branch of the code that is actually running within the main branch, and then they different people, different developers, maybe the same feature may be implemented by different developers. So even from this, the different developers, even in the case of this branch, this can be further divided onto different further sub branches, so that each developer can work on this functionality. And once each developer works on this functionality, he'll just merge it with this branch. All right, they just merge it with this branch, and then they actually test this functionality if it actually works. So if they think that, okay, after this Netflix actually can have a watch party sort of feature, and if they are finally satisfied with it, only then they will merge it into the master branch so that everyone can access it. So this is how the concept of branches helps in very much collaboration, very much of an extensive testing. A whole lot of advantages are there, which you guys can actually check it out more, because considering the shortage of time, I won't be going more into that. So this is how the concept of branches comes in. Did you guys understand, or is there any clarity that you guys need for this further?
I had one doubt regarding that.
Sure, come on.
Ma'am, like we were just dividing these sub branches like Utkarsh and Abhay. Ma'am, we are just completing the full code in that sub branches, and then we are uploading it into the main branch, or somewhat sort of it.
So if I am creating, suppose this main branch has some substantial amount of code, okay? So
Yes,
now when I create this branch Utkarsh, whatever code is there in the main branch, that gets duplicated so that Utkarsh can access it in his own branch. All right?
Yes, ma'am.
The same case with Abhay. Whatever code is there in the main branch, that forms into another duplicate so that Abhay can access that code into his own branch. And then Abhay and Utkarsh will be adding changes onto their own branches, so that the main branch will go undisturbed. Nothing will, whatever code is there in the main branch, that will not be disturbed. Utkarsh and Abhay will be adding, deleting, or whatever changes they have to make, they'll be doing it in their own branches. And further, when they are satisfied with it, they'll just, merge their branches with the main branch. Only then will the main branch will have changes. Now you got it?
Yes, ma'am, got it.
Is your doubt clear?
Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's how the concept of branches comes in. Now why don't we we'll just create a few branches so that I can just demo that with you. So right now I'm just going back to my local copy of the code. Okay, so this is my local copy of the code. So I have, this is what branch is it right now? This is the main branch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new branch. So for that, I have this bit of code called git branch name. Okay. So I'm gonna do it. I'm going to create a new branch with this code called git branch. So what I'm going to name this branch is, I'm going to name this branch as Utkarsh, just as the way I've said in the example. So I've created this branch called Utkarsh. Now let me create another branch too, all right? I'm going to create another branch, which is Abhay. So I've created another branch called Abhay. So I've created two branches. So now if I have to work, if Utkarsh has created his branch, now if Utkarsh should work onto that branch, what should he do? He should actually switch from the main branch to his own branch. So that to do that, he should actually check out from his main branch and go towards the Utkarsh branch. So for that, I have to use another bit of code, which is git checkout. So if I'm gonna go into Utkarsh's branch, I'm gonna go with the command git checkout. I'm gonna go with Utkarsh, okay? So now you can see that it gives the message switched to the branch Utkarsh. Okay, so now you can see my branch got changed from main to Utkarsh, and whatever code was there in the main branch, it is now there in Utkarsh's branch. All right. Now I'm going to do something else. I'm going to make a few changes in the main in Utkarsh branch. Okay, I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to name it as utkarsh.txt, and I'm just gonna, as an input, I'm going to write it as I am Utkarsh. Okay, I'm Utkarsh, and I'm just going to commit this right now. So how do I commit it? Go back to the further the commands before. Git add utkarsh.txt. That is added. Now if I do the git status, I can find that a new file has been added onto Utkarsh's branch. Okay, so now this file is now on Utkarsh's branch. Now, do you guys think what will happen if I suddenly switch to the main branch right now? What can I see there? Can I see Utkarsh's file over there?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Why?
And because it hasn't been sent to the staging area. It hasn't been committed.
Exactly. This is actually on the, this one has actually been done on Utkarsh's branch, and I have not added it on to the main branch yet. So if I'm gonna, just the way as I've checked out to Utkarsh's branch, I'm gonna just do a checkout to main. So if I check out to main, if I check out to main and I am gonna do a git status again. See, there has been you guys can actually see that there has been a file that has been added on to Utkarsh's branch, but it is not right now on the main branch. So I'm gonna do one thing. So switched again. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to commit this. Git commit. Add it. Utkarsh. So Utkarsh's branch has been done. I've committed this particular addition to Utkarsh's branch. Now I'm going back to main branch again. So I've gone back to main branch. Now you can see I've actually committed that file to Utkarsh's branch. Can you guys see the same file on the main branch right now?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Why? Because that is in Utkarsh's part of the branch. It won't come to the main branch until and unless I merge the two branches together. Now what I'm going to do is, there is this command called how do I merge branches. So I'm going to just show it to you guys. I'm going to just search it out. I need to merge two branches. Merge two branches. There are different ways with which we can merge two branches. So I'm going to just show you the easier way by searching it out.
We can use the git merge command, I guess.
Of course, you can use the git merge command while working on the local repo. And the other way you can do it, you can actually check it into Utkarsh's branch itself onto, you can check it. You can actually create a new global branch in GitHub with the name Utkarsh, and when you're pushing it, that will actually go onto the Utkarsh branch. So I'm gonna using the merge command, we can just check this out right now. So how do I do it? Any idea? One of you just said it, right? How do I do it?
Using the git merge command.
Okay, I just need to use the merge command, and I just need to I just write git merge Utkarsh. What did I do right now? I actually merged Utkarsh branch into the main branch. Now you can see utkarsh.txt is right now in main. So what does that mean?
Now
File
has
which was in
been
Utkarsh branch has been
it is
merged
uploaded
to the
on
main
main.
branch.
Yeah, Utkarsh branch has been merged on main branch. So now, do you guys think Utkarsh branch is over there right now? It is still there, but whatever commits I have made on the Utkarsh branch, that has been merged onto the main branch. So this is the same scenario that
I think when we merge two branches,
yeah, if you changes. See,
the file which was committed.
Utkarsh has worked on some part of the code and he's satisfied with it, and then he pushed it on to the main branch. Now, what else can he do? He can even further add more functionalities to his own branch, and he can continue pushing it on to the main branch if he's satisfied with another functionality, or he can delete that branch and work on a different set. Now you understand. See, suppose if Utkarsh is working on a particular feature. Suppose he's working on a C program to do a loop pattern. Okay, do a work on a star pattern and do a reflection of that. So he wrote the code that prints half of the pattern. He's satisfied with it, and he just pushed it on to the main branch, so that the main branch would now have the code for the half pattern. Now what can he do? He can just work on the full pattern work on the code that gives the full pattern with his own branch, and then he can merge that onto the main branch too. All right, like he can work on his own instance from his own branch, and then he can continue pushing it on the main branch as and when he is satisfied. Either he can delete that branch after pushing it, or he can continue working on the main branch and then push further changes onto the main. Continue working on his own branch and then push further changes onto the main branch. So, got the difference?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Or is it a bit confusing?
It's clear.
It got clear. All right. So I've actually added merged the Utkarsh branch along with my main branch. Now either if I need to do something else, see, suppose I need to work again on to Utkarsh branch, so I can just shift to Utkarsh again. And I can go with I am a CS student. So I've done a few change on to the code, the work that I've been doing on Utkarsh's branch, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this to add utkarsh.txt and then commit updated. I've actually updated Utkarsh, so I'm going to just put a quick commit message onto that. Update Utkarsh. So I've updated that branch. So now again I am switching back to main. I cannot actually find that change in the main part where I have the Utkarsh file. So now I'm actually what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually merge Utkarsh onto it, and then when I suddenly merge, I can find the addition that I've made onto Utkarsh branch. So this is how he can either delete that branch, or he can continue working on his branch and push changes onto the main branch. Now finally, if he's completely satisfied with all the things that he has done, he can then delete that branch. So to delete that branch, you actually have this quick command called git branch B, and then you put the branch name Utkarsh. So this deletes the Utkarsh branch, and if you can see, there is no Utkarsh branch over here right now. Got this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So now you are thorough with branches and how it works?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right, great. So now this is how you work with branches. So right now, okay. So I hope till this point it's clear for you. So now you guys have a real base of Git, GitHub, and how you actually work with branches, how you add files on from your local report, local folder to your global folder, and all of it is clear for you guys.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So did you find this informative? Did you like the way the session was delivered?
Ma'am.
Yes or no? Can
Yes,
I have?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. So okay. So now I'll be just going for one more quick topic. Now this is an important part where you can actually collaborate or actually give your contribution to another project. So that's an important fact that I'm going to show you right now. With this functionality is called forking and cloning. That means, so suppose I can find a lot of repositories on GitHub, right? So I'm just going on to this GitHub. This is my, I'm the Google Developer Student Club lead of MBCT chapter. So this is my organizational repository of our MBCT campus club. So there are a lot of repositories over here. So suppose if I think that I need to contribute to one of these repositories. See, this repository called data structures and algorithms, it's actually public and I can contribute to this. So how do I actually contribute to this? So this is the part that I'm going to explain right now, is how you can contribute to any open source project or repository, or how you can make your own valid contributions. So there are two instances where you can use. The first instance where I told about branches was how when three or four of you are working on one particular project, and you can merge your own contributions into that particular project, into your own project. Now this is something that helps you to contribute to someone else's project. So this is, I'm going to do it now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I need to create this project is right now belongs to this user called DSE MBCT. Now I'm going to just create my own version of this repo. So how do I do this? This has got you guys see this option called fork.
Yes, ma'am.
So forking, I'm going to fork this repo right now, and forking it will actually so forking it will actually create an instance of my own, repo of the same name. So I already have the fork with me. So what I'm going to just do is I'm going to go back to my own profile, and I'll show you that I have already forked it up. See, there is data structures and algorithms on my system, on my repo too. So you can see that a short suffix will be coming up over here, that this is forked from DSE MBCT data structures and algorithms. All right. So I'm going to just do this. I need to use project or to this repo based on make some of my own contributions over here. So what I'm going to do is I can either have forked it up, I've made my own instance of this repo into with my own username. Now what I'm going to do is I need to create a local instance of this repo. So this is right now, where is this repo right now? This repo is right now in GitHub, right? So now I have to bring it to my local space, doesn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
So how this thing, just watch this out how I'm going to do this. So I have this folder called Git and Github. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, open a terminal over here. So you guys just need to open the terminal at that particular folder. For Windows users, you can actually, use the same way. You can, Windows users will actually have git bash onto. If you right click, you can actually find over here, open git bash. Can you guys just check out those who have installed git? If you guys try this out, does git bash come over there?
Yes, ma'am.
Git bash comes up. Okay, so you guys just have to, what you have to do is, in my case, I'm going to open a new terminal. In your case, you just need to open git bash, all right? So git bash will also be a terminal of this sort. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna take up that remote instance of that repository called data structures and algorithms, and I'm gonna create a local copy of the same. In effect, I'm gonna clone that instance of that remote repository or that GitHub repository, and I'm gonna clone it into my system. So for that, I just use a simple command called git clone, and I just paste the URL of the repo. URL is the HTTPS URL, that the same one that we use to link a global and a local repo. And when I run this, when I run the command, I can just find it that the cloning has been completed. Now, if I check out this folder, I can find that there is this copy of data structures and algorithms over here. All right. Is it interesting how you managed?
Yes,
ma'am.
How you managed to create a local copy of that repo? So
yes.
now I can actually open this to VS Code to make the changes that I need, and I just need to push it on to the global repo. Okay, the global repo will be to show you that part. I'm gonna just see, there is this I'm gonna just append the guidelines of array, add the programs related to arrays. I just made a small change in typo. So what I'm going to do right now is I just need to commit this onto the branch. So how am I going to do that? I'm just going to open the terminal. I'm going to initialize git over here. Then I'm going to add the files, git add. So suppose if you need to add all the changes that you have made onto the file, you just need to. So in the previous instances, I just put in the file that I just put in the name of the file along with the add command alongside. So if you need to add all the files, all the changes, and all the files that are there in the current repo, you just need to. There is a shortcut for that. After add, you just put a space and you put dot, and that will actually add all the files that are there in the folder or there in the directory onto your main branch. So now if I put git commit and a quick message, added a change. So that commit has been done. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to merge this to the origin. So I need to just remote origin already exists. Now I just need to commit or push this onto the main branch. Git push origin. Just need to check if this is the main branch, and even this is the main branch. So I just need to push it right now. So the push has been done. Now if you check it out over here, you can just see that I have made a commit called the guideline over here. Can you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
So now you can see that this is actually a commit ahead of the what is my the main project that I am trying to make the contribution is to DSC MBCT, that the data structures and algorithms. And I have my own instance that I've made in my own. I have made an own instance repo of the same folder. And what I'm going to do is I now need to add this on to. I now need to add this on to my, the projects that has been originally there. That means the one from DSC MBCT. So now you can see that there is this message displayed over here. This branch is actually 1 commit ahead and 20 commits behind DSC MBCT. Now, if I just go on to that, I can find that the GitHub workflow actually compares the changes between the 2 branches. Here, I have just changed a small typo over here, and then it actually gives a checkpoint that I can actually merge this branch of mine, this instance of mine, to the main instance, which is the repository of DSC MBCT. For that, I have to make use of another functionality which is called a pull request. So when I create a pull request, what actually goes? It actually describes the change that I have made, and then I can create a pull request, push in a pull request over there. So while I am doing a pull request, what actually does is that the author of the original project, which is DSC MBCT, will come to know that I am actually trying to contribute to this project, and I have actually made a contribution. So now this is DSC MBCT's instance of data structures and algorithms, and this is the code part. And if you move on to the pull request part, you can actually see that there is a pull request that I have made, that I, as Riya P Mathew, has made a pull request to actually add on to this portion. Okay, so now if that author, if DSC MBCT actually finds, now you guys can actually see, since I am one of the reviewers, I am one of the admins of the DSC MBCT directory of the repository, so I can actually merge a pull request too. So if suppose, consider the general case, if the project that you want to contribute to, if the author of that project actually considers your pull request valid, then he can actually merge your pull request onto his parent project. So that's how you contribute to a particular project. Got this part?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you know how you can actually contribute to a particular project, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So that was a whole lot of base about GitHub and everything. So I'm just going through a quick outro of whatever we have gone through. We just went through the portion of open source. We just went through the basics of Git and GitHub. We went through the commands. We checked how we actually transfer the files from your local instances to the global instances, and how you can, 3 or 4 of you can work collectively on a project with the help of branches, and then you actually came to know how you can contribute to another person's project. So this is the basic bread and butter stuff that you actually have to understand while you're working on a project, or this is how you can make use of Git and GitHub to make your workflow and all really more efficient. So almost most of the concepts that were taken clear for you guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So can I have a quick, I hope that most of the concepts were clear for you guys. Now I have a bit of party gift for you. So I've actually collected a few of the resources that will help you, help you set up VS Code, help you set up Git onto your system. And there is without the usage of Git, Git is a version control software. You can actually set up a version of GitHub desktop into your local system. So that will actually help you to manage the workflow without using the Git commands. So that is, but you should actually master the Git commands because you should know them, how Git works and everything. And if you think that you've mastered that, and if you have to go through a more easier workflow, you can actually, get a GitHub desktop app for yourself, and then you can actually manage your transfer of files from the local and global repos without the use of these commands. That you can actually create branches, you can actually commit files, you can actually push files without commands, just using this app which is called GitHub Desktop. And I've actually included some of the extensions for VS Code that you can use it up. And then some more resources are also provisioned over here. If you want to have a clear understanding of Git and Github, you can just check out this. So check this out, guys. So
Thank you, ma'am.
all right. So I hope everything has been clear to you guys. I've taken up, I've been allotted the time till 8:30, and I'm sorry that I took a bit of the time to explain that part.
It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. It was really an interactive session and knowledgeable also. Thank you so much. I request the audience to fill up the feedback form which I have just provided in the chat box. And I also request all of you to just switch on your cameras for a while so that we can have a memento as a photograph with us, like we have Riya with us. So I request everyone to just switch on their cameras for a while for a photograph.
Hi guys, so nice to see you. Okay, so can one of you just unmute and tell me how the session was? Can I have a quick feedback so that it will also help me improve?
Yeah, I would like to say something here.
Sure, ma'am.
I'm Dr. Aparna Dixit.
Yes,
and
Yes, I would like to introduce.
Yeah, I am listening from 7:10. It was very interactive, and I could not start my laptop, but due to some work, actually parallelly, I was listening you. So continuously, students were taking a lot of interest. So even at this time, in evening hours, they were doing. And on Saturday, normally the students basically engaged in so many activities like rather than academics. So, but I am happy to see these glowing faces. They are not get bored. Even I was also very happy to see your entho because you have taken so much time. But this was just like a hands-on session. So the students were engaged in doing hands-on on GitHub also. GitHub is most important in case of development of virtual labs also. So some of the students were instructed via virtual lab by IIT Kanpur. They have to develop some more experiments. So they first of all they must know how to go for repository, how to make repository and different things. I heard about GitHub in the year of 2019 when I participated with my team members. They were first year students in 2019 in Gujarat University. So we actually received a Silver Developer Award also in that ceremony. So in the boot camp. So there I heard about GitHub. So I have also learned some few things, but I'm not very used to, but it was very fantastic. So I think this is the way to go to create something very safely. So people cannot see, and this is just we can say free source, open source. So and anyone can make the repository on the same portal, but it will be safe. No one can share your data. I hope so. If I am not wrong, this one.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
So basically, their students have learned a lot of things, but now these are first year students and they are in second semester. So in this second semester, they are about to learn, and I'm very happy to see that you have taught them lot of things in a funny way. Thank you so much, Riya. Really, you spared your important time here. This is unimaginable. We cannot imagine even your hard time also. Thank you so much for sparing your valuable time here.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for the lovely words. And I really had a very great time talking to you all, interacting with you all. You've been really interactive. Most of you've been open up with your questions, with your comments, with your responses. And I really feel so blessed to have, taken this session for you guys. So thank you so much. And thank you, Anushka, for inviting me over. Thank you.
Thank you, Riya. This is a token of thanks for you, a memento. We will mail you also a certificate. Thank you for being with us. I also like to thank Dr. Aparna Dikshit ma'am, IEEE PSIT Student Branch Counselor, for attending the event and for sharing the experience and coming up with the thoughts. Thank you to all the attendees for making this session a really valuable and inspirational, like being it was really an interactive session. I like to thank everyone, and I would like to thank my co-mates for making this webinar successful by giving their time and all the hard work they did for the past few days. Thank you all. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anushka, have you taken some more pics also during the session?
Yes, ma'am. I took the screenshots and recording also.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Riya. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.